G38. Off to the Geek Show now at Mohawk Studios, where Ms. Behaviour is standing by. Good morning, Ms. B.
Good morning, Wammo.
And today we're talking about retaking the net. What is retaking the net?
Retake the Net is an organisation that's been set up down in Wellington by a group of international Kiwis, as I like to call them. New Zealanders who've come from somewhere else, as have we all at some point along the generations.
True.
Basically getting together. You know how everyone sits around and everyone says something must be done?
Yeah.
Well, this is a group of people getting together and actually doing something about it. It's being furthering the cause for keeping the internet free and open. And what they mean by that is that open, so everyone has access to it, that it's free, as in there's freedom of use, it's private, it's secure, and accessible for everybody, because it's so important to every facet of our lives. So what's happened is there's been a number of meetings running up to this weekend just gone, which was their bar camp or unconference. And there's various projects that have been developed from the initial meeting. So this get-together at the weekend, the unconference, was all about getting more people involved and opening the debate a bit wider. So it was held at the town hall. And this is one of the reasons that I moved to Wellington, because there's so much happening down here in the tech scene, and there's lots of social events, and it's constant. There's two things every weekend at the moment. So this weekend it was Retake the Net and Craft 2.0, which I slipped out to see briefly.
Yeah.
But the Retake the Net thing was really, really good in that it's just great to get together with a group of like-minded people who are willing to put effort and time into talking about these important issues and then actually doing something about it.
So there's the website retake.net. But
that's right. Yep.
It's not a political sort of organisation, is it?
No, it's not. And if you go and have a look at their FAQ page, it's pretty good. You know, they've got a one statement about what it means at the bottom of that page. If I just scroll down, I'll get that to you. So they say that it's an initiative that connects people and concrete projects to help keep the net free and open. But just summarising, because the day opened with some speeches from Sibylle Schwartz, who is originally from Germany via San Francisco, now based in Wellington. Brian Calhoun, who, again, USA to Wellington via San Francisco. And the mayor, Celia Wade Brown, talked as well. So, you know, what they made a big point about the fact that it's not a political movement. It's not affiliated with the Occupy movement. It's not about corporate control. It's and it's also not about believing that free necessarily means without financial rewards. Because one of the things that Brian Calhoun mentioned, was that in the Wellington region alone, there's over 200 people who are fully employed working on open source software development projects. So free is more about freedom rather than free as in no monetary recompense. And I think that's a really important point to make, because people think, oh, it's great, you have all these ideals, it's great, but people have to get paid somewhere along the way. And we completely agree. So some of the projects that have come out of this are things like, so I'll just look at some around anti-censorship, open culture, education, low bandwidth internet, open communities, software freedom, and something which I'm finding very interesting, which they're calling policy auction. And that's a really interesting concept. I think it's going to be called I'd vote for that. They're currently developing at the moment, because quite a few of the people involved are actually open software developers themselves. And it's an idea of people being able to pose and vote for the policies they'd like to see in place. So you can see that, coming through, there's a new form of democracy, a new form of politics that's starting to emerge right now from various movements, various spaces and places. And I think these kind of events, these kind of unconferences and bar camps really are the way of the future, because it's less about a small group of people predefining what is going to be discussed and what's going to be covered, and more about people collectively getting together and in some ways making it up as you go along, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a position. That doesn't mean that there isn't a direction or outcomes. It's just a lot more collaborative way of doing things.
Well, there's still, I guess, a reason for everyone to be together, and I suppose that's the direction moving forward, isn't it?
That's right. And these unconferences are gaining in popularity. And it was quite interesting hearing Celia Wade-Brown saying that she was quite intrigued by the concept and might even have a go at trying out an unconference of some of the council meetings, which I think would be fantastic. I mean, you and I've been to a few unconferences at Food Camp, haven't we?
Yeah.
And I think they work really well because you don't know who else is into the sort of topics that you are until you get there. So basically what happens is you turn up on the day. There's no projectors, there's no presentations, no upfront agenda. There's just a load of time slots provided throughout the day. And you make the agenda up as you go along. So you get a load of sticky post-it notes. You write a topic title on that you'd be interested in discussing. So you stick it up on the board. And then people start to rearrange these topic titles into clusters of similar topics. And from that comes the agenda. And that's how you develop what's going to be developed on the day. And then the sessions themselves are very free-form, very collaborative. So you usually have one or two facilitators, but they're not there to present. They're there just to make sure that everybody who wants to talk gets a chance to have their voice heard, and then to pull together the topics that have been discussed and summarise some actions and some outcomes. So, for example, I facilitated a Creative Commons for Open Culture session in the morning, which was fantastic. It was great to hear people talking about how important Creative Commons is in other areas, such as open government, such as education, such as academia, which I think was fantastic to see the debate moved into that territory rather than just seeing how it applied to the creative industries. I then went to a session later on about the policy auction idea and how we can help the government get the net, but more importantly, we can help more people get government because it's a two-way process. So there were some really great ideas that came out of that about how can we help educate the influencers to make the right policy decisions, because we were talking about the Skynet bill and that ludicrous situation in the House where a group of politicians who freely admitted that they didn't know what they were voting on, but they were going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And, it's easy enough to say, oh, that's ridiculous and these people are stupid. But really, that's not achieving anything. That's putting even more divisions between a group of people who are traditionally seen as being very techie and very talking in code, I think was one of the phrases that came out. And I think as geeks, we do have a tendency to do that, to fall into our TLAs, three-letter acronyms, and what to the rest of the world sounds like code.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a communication issue there. How can we make it easier for policymakers and decision makers to make the right decisions based on a full understanding of the issue? So there's work to be done there. And one of the lovely ideas I thought was adopt a politician or adopt a senior civil servant and help them understand. And then the other session that I went to in the afternoon was around Open Community Hub based in Wellington. So this is a group of the volunteers have been along to a local soup kitchen where, of course, there's lots of people who really are unable to access digital information and content. There's huge barriers there because this is really the pointy end of the digital divide. So the idea is to put internet connection in an internet hub with some support services and some training, which obviously to empower the people who are using this hub to do so themselves. To try and give these people an opportunity to access knowledge, email. I mean, I did a similar program myself when I was in the UK working with big issue vendors, the magazine that's sold in various places to help people who are homeless. And I had about 10 big issue vendors come on one of my training courses. And by the end of it, 3 of them became professional web designers. Oh. They found jobs, they found homes, they found, a future. So it's easy to remember when we sit at work or we're at home playing with our flashy smartphones and we've got our Xboxes and we've got all of these tools and toys around us all online, to remember that there are great chunks of people who just are not as privileged. And not necessarily comfortable with going to the library. It's easy to say, oh, you can just go to the library and you can go online there, but it's perception. It's like one of the points that came out from the discussions the volunteers had was that some of these people feel uncomfortable going into the library because of the way other people look at them. And to be in a safe, supported, nurturing environment where they can explore and they can use these tools and in a really positive way, I think is fantastic. So there's a whole load of projects that have been put together from this. There's a load of them on the website, so if you want to go and see what's more about what's happening, and hopefully get involved. If you're interested, for example, in Wellington in this Open Communities Hub, then there's a meeting on Thursday at 6 o'clock at Southern Cross to talk about it. And we just want more people to get involved and more people to be aware that there are things that we can do. They don't have to be huge, world-changing. We can change the world. We can change lots of individuals' worlds in small, easy, incremental ways.
Excellent. Well, all the notes to what Ms. Behaviour has just been talking about are also up at thegeekshow.com, 2 3s rather than 2 E's. A whole bunch of websites to go and check out there, as well as this as a video once more as well. Thank you very much, Ms. B.
Cheers, Wammo.
Time now here on Kiwis, coming up to